my granddad played organ, and he played piano, but he worked his way. You know, he was born in 1907, and so he lived through the Depression, and when he was about 9 years old, he was an accomplished pianist. I used to sit with him, and I'd be sitting on the side of his organ bench, and he would be playing. He had a big Hammond B3 and a huge Leslie cabinet. You know, I used to like to watch that speaker spin, you know, when he played. But he, since he played for silent movies, he would just take off playing, and you never knew where he was going to go till he got there. And I remember one time I was sitting there, and of course it had the bass pedals, you know, and so his feet were constantly moving around, and I felt his leg, you know, getting against my leg and stuff. And then all of a sudden I got these like chills, goosebumps in the middle of him playing, and he was just tearing it up. And he got done playing, and he hit his last note, and he looks at me and he goes, "Did you feel that?" And I go, "Yeah, I felt that, Granddaddy." And he's, "Yeah, I felt it too." You know, I saw B.B. King and Chuck Berry, you know, and I went nuts the first time I saw Chuck Berry do his little scoot across the stage, you know. And I thought, God, I got to do that. Anyway, and so I started writing rock and roll songs.
So when did you start playing for larger audiences?
When they started showing up.
So you knew instantly from playing for your family that you wanted to continue to share that gift?
Yeah, the first time, we used to be a member of a saddle club.
Okay.
And the very first time I played for an audience, they were all sitting around. We went on a trail ride and we're camping out. Everybody had the horses tied up, you know, in tents and horse trailers everywhere, and had a big fire going, and roasting hot dogs, marshmallows, whatever. And somebody said, "I wish we had somebody here to play guitar." And my dad said, "Brad's got a guitar. Brad, go get that guitar." And so that song that I was saying that's where that kind of started then, because I wanted to play, I didn't know anything but the D and G and C. And I started playing that D chord, and you know, and just took off with it, and the whole crowd ended up singing with me. There was about 25 people sitting around this fire, and next thing you know, I mean, they were saying, "You need to really keep doing that," you know. And then when I was
Did you look at your dad's face when you were singing that song?
What's that?
Did you look at your dad's face when you were singing that song?
You know, it was so long ago, you know, but I remember looking at him and my mom and all the people there, you know, and I was thinking, they really like this. You know, I was only 7 at the most. And I just couldn't believe everybody was looking at me playing guitar. You know, they tell you when you bring a baby home, you know, if it's real quiet, you know, the baby will get used to being real quiet. And if there's any noise, it'll wake the baby up, you know. All my babies, you couldn't wake them up with thunder.
There was always music being made.
I mean, because, you know, when I just always played music, and we found out that, you know, I'd be back, and I had one of the bedrooms that I had turned into a sound room, and it had the soundboard all over the walls and everything, and we had, you know, it was a little studio, practice studio. And I'd go in there playing music, and the kids would jump up and down outside the door, dancing to the music until you know, because I'd have friends in there, you know, and we'd be jamming, they would jump so hard that the amplifiers that had the old spring reverbs would, and I'd say, you all can, I'm glad you're having fun, but you can't jump so hard. And they'd go, okay. And then after a little while, we'd be still playing and they would fall asleep, And my wife then would come in and she'd say, hey, the boys went to sleep. Can you turn it down a little bit? And I'd go, okay, and they'd go to bed and we'd go right on play music. Jamming. Because I traveled a lot when they were growing up. And I know what it's like to come in at, when you're gone and then you get a chance to come in and you get there at 2 o'clock in the morning and all the kids are asleep. You got to go in and give them all a kiss, And Bradley has called me and said, gosh, this is so hard, and told me, when we shared, father-son time talking about those kinds of things.
And it's important for him to have you to go to, because he probably doesn't have many other people who can relate to that life and those challenges the way that you do.
Well, there's a lot of people doing it.
There are a lot of people doing it.
It's really the norm. When you think about the soldiers, men and women that are serving our country, and they have to leave kids home and go away and defend normally some other country, while their kids are at home alone, or not alone, but with, the other spouse. And, it takes a toll, but I mean, that stuff has been going on for thousands and thousands of years, parents having to go away and work and come home and be a long distance parent, or, you just make the best of the time that you got when you're with them, Yeah,
you make the time.
Trying to make up for lost time. In 2011, I was diagnosed with level 4 spreading melanoma. And that's like a death sentence. And so, you wonder, your kids just got married and, they're starting to find their way, and some of them are just out of the house, and Daniel was still in the house, and you just wonder, all these thoughts of what will you get to see? What will you miss? In the very beginning, it was a shock, trying to you go to church and you sit there and you look over and you see an empty pew and you think, one day that'll be my spot. I quit with all that, and I don't even, the kind of treatment they wanted to give me, I only had the prognosis of treatment is different than the prognosis of your condition, And the prognosis of treatment, I only had a 50-50 chance I'd live through it. So I turned that down. And we go along, and when something comes up, we take care of it. And that's as far as I'll go into that. However, grandkids. When I hold a new grandchild, I'm thinking, I got to see another one. And the first one, the second one, the third one, it never changes. It's like when you have a diagnosis like that, before the diagnosis, there's a lot of days it's just kind of run of the mill. And it's the same way now, except for when you think about, somebody says, well, what kind of day is it? What kind of day are you having? Well, I'm having a day, and that's better than not having a day, And in fact, doing what we're doing right now,
It's for them.
Everything that I do, I'm thinking, it's all preparations. It's all preparations. And we should think, every human being should always live in preparation for tomorrow, no matter what, because Today is not going to last. Today is a passing moment in time.
Tomorrow's not promised.
That will never come back.
Right.
So, better be making preparations.